G'day family, I hope you're all doing well. I'm going to begin this short video with a little clip, but I'll explain the following. I'm not trying to establish any kind of rapture date, etc. with this video. What I'm trying to do is simply point at how close we must be to the tribulation. Potentially some signs that show us the midpoint of the tribulation, and therefore how close we must be to the rapture. So just have a listen to this brief clip from Global News for a second, and then I will explain my direction of thought.
I am announcing this government will make a new free of charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work by the end of this Parliament. Let me spell that out. You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not...
Note the old hand signal there. It's a very unnatural way to hold your hands. You try it yourself. Anyway, just saying.
...have digital ID. It's as simple as that. Because decent, pragmatic, fair-minded people, they want us to tackle the issues that they see around them. And of course, the truth is, we won't solve our problems.
Anyway, that's as far as I'll go on that. I don't want to infringe any copyright or anything like that. But now, let's have a look at some more things. What we were told in that video clip was that by the end of Parliament, you will need digital ID basically to work, but let's, expand that to buy and sell within the UK. Now, the UK, they're the first country that have sort of came out and said this publicly in this way. Other than places like China, but they sort of implement these things progressively. It's raining outside. I hope that's not interfering with the sound too much. So, what have we been told? We've been told by the end of Parliament, this digital ID will be in place. Now, pertaining to the tribulation, we don't know exactly where during that 7-year period the mark of the beast is going to be forced on people. But I can tell you now there are many countries worldwide that are ready for it, like Australia, but there are also a lot that aren't and would require significant infrastructure changes and development before that could happen. So I suspect that the mark of the beast isn't going to be implemented, at the point of the rapture. I think it'll take quite a lot of time to get this sort of worldwide. Now let's consider the United Kingdom for a second. They are the head, or basically they're the head of the Commonwealth, and the Commonwealth is comprised of 56 countries. I'll explain that in a moment. So they are basically saying that by the end of Parliament, and their session ends Wednesday the 15th, 2029, by that point in time, they will have full digital ID, which let's just call that the mark of the beast, right, in place. Now, we know when countries, like big countries like UK, come out with an idea, and we saw this during the pandemic, other countries tend to go, yeah, that's a great idea, we'll implement that here as well. Now, the UK is basically the head, figuratively, of 56 different sovereign nations or countries, etc. So, I would suspect that all of those nations will come on board with this by or before when the UK is saying they'll have this in place. But let's just set the UK's date, because they came out with it first, or it's hit the news big time, sort of first via this. parliamentary speech that I played a brief clip of at the beginning. So let's say they've set the benchmark, and we're going to have it in place, at least in all the Commonwealth countries by August. Was it August? Yeah, August 15, 2029. Now, many people suspect that the midpoint of the tribulation could be when Apophis arrives. When's that? That's only basically a month and 2 days earlier in 2029. See? Oh, sorry. 4 months and 2 days earlier. What am I doing? August. So, what's that mean? Sorry for the great delay there. I was having a mental moment. So what's that mean? 4 months earlier, we have Apophis arrive, and then we suspect that the mark of the beast will be in place. I suspect, because they set that as their outside date, that this will all happen much sooner. When could much sooner be? Could much sooner be 4 months earlier, on April 13, when we see the midpoint of the tribulation? Now let's have a think about Satan. He masquerades as God, and ultimately he is going to stand in the temple, the abomination that causes desolation, and declare himself as God. Now, Satan is not going to declare himself as God until he has full and complete control. Just follow me for a moment. So what I'm trying to do, basically, or loosely, is prove a midpoint of the tribulation, or not prove it solidly, but just to show how close we must be to the rapture. So if we have a outside date of 15th of August 2029 for full digital ID implementation, we have Apophis, which we suspect could be the midpoint of the tribulation, 4 months and a couple of days earlier. 56 countries, you can see there. Commonwealth is made up of 56 different countries. So they'd all fall into alignment by that date or before, I would imagine. And they don't want to disappoint the king after all, do you? Now, look at all the other countries that haven't got it. Well, America just said they're quite happy to be called not a member of the parliament, but sorry, not a member of the Commonwealth, but you remember that speech Trump just out of the blue said, we wouldn't mind being an honorary member of the Commonwealth, that's it. Well, that's a bit weird. So we could have America potentially falling into line with this digital ID by that date as well. But what about all these other countries? Well, most of those have something in place already and probably are further along, and the rest of them, as I suggested, could have all this in place within 3.5 odd years. So look at China. On July 15, China passed legislation for digital ID, and we already know about China and their social score system and all that sort of stuff. So they're already well along. And how many people are there in China? Oh, that's interesting. Look at that. Thinking huts. We've just done all this study on tabernacles, which in the Qumran scrolls, Brother David has identified as the Feast of Huts. And Mike's just put out his video, for which a lot of research went into, about tabernacles, the Feast of Huts. Are we thinking huts? I sure am. Anyway, sorry about that slight digression. So we know we've got digital ID in place in other countries, ready to go. We know the ones that haven't got it could get it up and running fairly quick, albeit with the need of assistance from neighbouring countries potentially, but hey, that's not going to be an issue for Satan. When he wants this thing happening, it's going to happen. So what I'm actually suggesting here, is that this announcement about digital ID and its end date in 2029 is very close to when we see Apophis 4 months earlier. Now, were they to have everything in place, say by when Apophis comes round, Satan could quite happily stand in that temple and declare himself as God, because the moment the digital ID is implemented worldwide, he has full and total control. But he is not going to do it before that point. So has this announcement by the UK given us a loose pointer towards 2029? Apophis, potentially, if it happens 4 months earlier. And hence, this is just another verification that we indeed are very, very close to the rapture. So guys, that's all this video was about. Keep looking up, stay focused. We are going to go home soon. God bless, and remember, you can't get to heaven by your own works. We were given a cup of salvation. It had everything in it that we need. We drink that cup down, we give it back to Jesus totally empty. Like I've said before, don't fill it with your own dirty home-brewed beer. It has everything it needs. Man's righteousness are but filthy rags before the Lord. The only way to the Father is through the Son. Jesus is in the lifeboat with the life rope. We are in the water. We need rescuing, and we can't do it ourselves. He has already done it. When we confess with our mouth Jesus is Lord, and we truly believe in our heart that he was crucified on a cross willingly, he was in the grave for 3 days, and he rose from the dead under his own power, defeating death, sin, and the grave. He did that as a perfect, sinless person to pay our sin debt. When we truly believe that with our heart, you also realise that it is nothing that you did yourself to gain salvation. That is a very, very, very strong line in the sand. Understand that. Understand that only Jesus and his works can save you. And I'll see you in the rapture, guys. God bless.